Hi, I'm Paul Simpson from the football club. Welcome to the Brunton Bugle.
Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Mike Booth.
Christmas comes early for United fans as the Piataks deliver a present for Simmo, a club record signing. We discuss the arrival of Luke Armstrong, review the draw with Northampton, and look ahead to the first two festive fixtures against Cheltenham Town and Fleetwood Town. It's a weird one, isn't it, Mike? Because it was a much improved performance at the weekend, and you'd think that's what we're going to be talking about mostly, but actually there's a hell of a lot to cram in the news section, isn't there? I think that's probably going to take up a decent chunk of today's show, isn't it? Because there's been quite a lot of exciting things happening in the last few days, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely.
It's been a very good... It's been a much more positive week, shall we say, after what happened at Blackpool the previous weekend. And there was a much more positive feeling leaving the ground of the weekend, wasn't it? Even with that late equaliser for Northampton.
Yeah, it's weird. I didn't feel overly robbed by them getting the equaliser because it wasn't a game that I can stand up and say, look, we deserve to win that. We didn't deserve to lose either, so I think a draw was probably the fair result, and it wasn't overly cheesed off, really. Yeah,
no, absolutely. So to fit in as usual, obviously we will be doing the news where we'll be covering the Armstrong signing and the fans forum that recently took place earlier this week. We'll then be looking back at the Northampton game for a little review of that, and then we're going to be previewing the first festive fixtures against Cheltenham Town at home and Fleetwood Town away on Boxing Day. We haven't got any behind enemy lines lined up at the moment, as we record this a bit earlier in the week, so I'm hoping to get a couple sorted. If I can, I'll get them sorted and we'll put them out as a separate episode, but we'll have to wait and see with that one. So before we get started, I've got to remind everyone, our sponsor this season, once again, for the third season in a row, is the Carlisle United Sports Club London branch. They do some fantastic stuff for the club in terms of fundraising, and they also do great stuff for sorting out tickets for away games for exiles and away travel as well and things like that, and recommended pubs. Yes, they basically, you can join them wherever you live in the UK, you don't have to, or even the world. You don't have to live in London or the South East. Jacksonville, Florida, we keep saying it. If there's any Jags fans listening in, get yourself signed up to the London branch. You can find out more about the London branch at the website, carlisle.londonbranch.org. Right then, Mike, no question for this week, have we? So let's get straight in.
I've got a question for you.
Go on. Do you want to do a question now then?
Yeah, go on. So the last time that we played Cheltenham at home under Paul Simpson was January 2006. We had two Carlisle players scored that game in a 1-1 draw. One scored in the right end, one scored in the wrong end. Who were they?
I think I know the answer to this. Should I do it now or do you want to wait?
Oh, go on, we'll do it now.
I feel like I know the player who scored the own goal. I'm pretty sure it was Kevin Gray.
Yeah. And
was it Danny Livesey that scored the goal in the event?
Michael Bridges.
Is it Michael Bridges? Okay, well, there you go. For some reason, I was convinced it was Danny Livesey. I thought it was the two centre-backs scoring either end, but there you go. Nice little question there for us, Mike. I'll maybe think of a Fleetwood one we can do before the start of the second half of the show anyway. Well, let's get into it. News. There's only one place to start, isn't there? Club record smashed by all accounts. The ribbon wheel started spinning probably round about the potential signing, round about the time we were recording last week, and we didn't really cover it much in the episode. Come Friday, there was talk of a player being in and having a medical. There was a lot of people at the match looking behind them in the director's box to see if this player was there. He wasn't, unfortunately, but come Monday, it was all confirmed. First thing, wasn't it? Luke Armstrong has arrived from Harrogate Town. What's your initial thoughts on this one, Mike? Go.
Yeah, it's obviously a player who we've known about for a while, and I actually believe Simmo when he says that we've known about him for a while. And I think when we signed players like Dinzay, we had the manager saying, "Oh, yeah, there's a player that it's been on our radar for some time," and you don't really believe him. But I think it's very much what we need. It'll hopefully help the ball stick up that end a little bit more, and it's a real sort of statement of intent, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Statement of intent definitely is the feeling on this one, isn't it? So obviously, Bit of the detail here. Luke Armstrong, 27-year-old Durham-born attacker. He's joined. We don't know how long the contract is yet. I'm going to guess it's going to be 3 years at least. You'd think if we're paying good money for him, it's going to be a longer contract. But he's going to join on the 1st of January. He can't play on the 1st of January against Port Vale, but he can play against Exeter City on the 6th of January. He's going to train with us though prior to then, isn't he? Basically, Simmo said at the fans forum that what they've done is they've sorted out the insurance so that he can train with us, and even though the deal won't officially be signed till the 1st of January, so we're covered there basically. And it's very exciting times. You know, he started out at Middlesbrough, which is obviously a club that his dad quite famously played for, Alan Armstrong. That's one of some of the middle-aged fans will be hearing that thinking, "Oh God, Alan Armstrong's son's playing for us." That tells me how old I am, because I feel that old because I remember his dad playing. But yes, he started at Middlesbrough. Having had a little spell at Cowden Beef and Blythe Spartans, he came back to Middlesbrough. Then he had loan spells at Gateshead and Accrington. Went to Salford. Didn't really work out at Salford for him. Had a loan spell at Hartlepool where it was really successful. Had average 1 and 2 for them in the National League. And then moved to Harrogate. And at Harrogate, he scored 29 goals in 103 league games. Should be said, only 1 in 12 this season. But obviously his season's been quite disrupted, hasn't it, Mike? Because he was set for a big money move on deadline day, wasn't he, to Wrexham. And Wrexham seemingly are the ones who cocked it up, aren't they?
Well, I think the issue was that it is technically an overseas transfer, so it needed more time for the paperwork, and but I mean their loss is our game. I've enjoyed some Wrexham fans on Twitter doing the whole we didn't even want him anyway routine.
It's been brilliant. They're like, oh well, he's clearly a bad egg. Look, you know, he's down tilted in his back. I don't think he has down tilts. I get the impression
it's the manager's choice to not play him.
I think the manager took one look and gone, look, the lad's just missed out on a move where he probably was going to potentially quadruple his wages. You know, he's big money move to a club that's really on the up, but that's fallen through. Of course, the lad's head's not going to be quite there. That's just the reality of it. If it especially when it happens that late as well, when you think it's done. So, yeah, I kind of feel like, I understand why, and I think from what Simon Weaver said, he said, look, I just took him out the firing line. I said, look, you're going to move in January anyway, so let's just take a step back from this and keep you fit at the very least. And interestingly, I don't know if you've seen the comments today from Simon Weaver on that one, Mike, but he's been saying how impressed he was with United and how they dealt with it, particularly Greg Abbott, and said how professional the whole dealing with the Blues was for the move. So
it's good.
It's good to hear, isn't it? And I mean, it does sound like Greg's contracts have helped a little bit. Obviously, he spoke to Paul Furwell. From what Simmo was saying, what happened with the transfer was that we did try on deadline day, but he was way out of our price range. And then, obviously, we've now got a bit of money to spend. And he spoke to Paul Furwell and said, look, I think he's out of our price range, the price you want. And Paul Furwell, Barlacan, said, well, maybe not. Come and ask us and let's talk about it. And it seems like they've basically dropped the price or what they wanted, understandably. The suggestion is there's no details out there, but the suggestion is £250,000 plus add-ons, which would be near enough double our previous transfer record. Yeah. As you say, a real statement of we are going to keep this club in League One this season, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely. And to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if that transfer record wasn't there for very long. But it's like you say, real statement of intent, and he's what we need, isn't he? That it's that end of the pitch that I think all right, we've been conceding goals, but we need someone to keep the ball at that end a little bit to ease the pressure on the defence, and I think he'll do both of those things.
He's very good at that, isn't he? That's the thing. Well, he scored that goal against us, didn't he, in the 3-3 game that me and you went to, and he was a nuisance all evening that day. And he's a big lad. He puts himself about. He wins a lot in the air. All the stats show that clearly. He was fourth top scorer in the league last season, behind Dennis, I think.
And I think he was the third top player on WhoScored.com in terms of all the stats and that sort of stuff.
Obviously, Moxon top that, so he's a quality player. And the Wrexham fans making out like, they're not us. I mean, it's just nonsense, that, isn't it? Basically, they missed out because their club cocked up, and we've benefited from the cock up because Harrogate clearly weren't very happy about that, and they were like, "Oh well." I think it's very pointed, the comments that Weaver's made about how we've dealt with it. That gives you a hint as to how the deal's been done, doesn't it? So
I think so.
Fantastic stuff. The first of many, by the sounds of things. So look forward to seeing him in action in January, and he's off to be in training. I'm guessing he'll probably be introduced to the crowd at the weekend, maybe before the game. I'd hope.
Possibly.
So, be nice to see. Let's round up the fans forum then now, Mike. The first one of the Castle Sports Group ownership took place on Monday, and quite a few interesting bits come out of this event, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, the people there could have a good look at the plans for the East Stand and the and the West Stand, and the Warwick, it sounds really positive. There's just so many things going on at once, really. But yeah, it's good to have this kind of constant communication rather than, trying to guess what's going on and rumours filling that void.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I've heard a few people complaining, there was only 100 people there, and that, those who were there didn't even ask any questions. I mean, that's not much different to all the other forums. You'll find that with these fans forums, people just go because they want to hear stuff, but they don't really have anything they want to ask themselves quite often. It can be pulling teeth sometimes doing these things, and I don't think holding it in a bigger place wouldn't make that much of a difference. I don't think so. The panel at Glass Bar in Brunton Park included Tom and Patty Piatak, Chief Executive Nigel Clibbins, Finance Director Suzanne Kidd, Fan Director Dave Noble, and of course Blues Manager Paul Simpson. Let's go through a few of the topics covered there, Mike. First up, the takeover. That was something that was asked about. Firstly, the question was asked obviously about did the previous owners benefit from the deal, and the answer is no. Basically, they made no profit on the thing, and Tom was at pains to make out that he was really impressed at how good a job they'd done in terms of vetting them, wasn't he? Really, I think he wanted to make that point. They clearly had the club's best interests at heart. They wanted to make sure the right people took over, not any old cowboy. So, he clearly appreciated the effort that they took. The pure pay debt was an interesting one, though, wasn't it? His comments on this. So clearly, you can still sense that Tom was still quite frustrated about what happened with that. In terms of not being able to get a good deal on repaying it. And Clibbins made a very interesting point, didn't he?
Yeah, that we were very much in danger, like under that debt, basically, and. I mean, it looked, reading between the lines while he was speaking, I think he probably had a few sleepless nights over it while it was hanging over us.
Yeah. I mean, he looks so happy sat on these panels now, doesn't he? He looks like he's finally, I'm able to actually do something in this club and I can actually move things forward. And, there's so many exciting plans coming in. It's really good to see. But the interesting thing I thought he said on the pure pay debt was he basically said that one of the problems when they were negotiating was that there was rumours of other bidders, and we've all heard about these, and that allegedly those rumours and those other bidders were used as collateral by PurePay to say, well, leverage. Sorry, that's the word. Yeah, leverage to basically say, well, we want the full amount. They're going to pay the full amount. So potentially, in the nicest way possible, those other bidders have potentially cocked up as saving a bit of money there, possibly. But it's done now, so it's out of the way. We don't have to worry about it. Thankfully, that's the most important thing. Transfers. So obviously confirmed that Armstrong is the first of likely several players coming in the January window. Not looking to force anyone else, Simmo said, didn't he? Which is an interesting one. He wants to have a bigger squad size, doesn't he? Which, I mean, fairly big squad already, but he clearly wants to have a bit of a decent number of players in the club. Yeah,
I mean, I think that there will be players who are certainly made available. Obviously, Corey Whelan has had... Well, there were bids for him in January and in the summer, but location-wise, there weren't decent clubs for him. But I think if a Tranmere or a Crewe or someone came in for him, I think he needs to be playing football, to be honest. I'm a fan of his, but he needs to be playing football.
Yeah. He's been a really good servant, hasn't he? And I think it's one of those ones where I kind of feel like if Simmo did say that one of the players he'd like to bring would be a centre-back, I think at that point, that's when sort of... I think Corey has to take a step back there and go, okay, if I want to play football, I've got a chance in January to get myself a club signed up for next season and not have to wait till the end of the summer. I can imagine that'll happen. And he'll go with our best wishes. And look, he's great in that Cheltenham game when he came in for that one game, just to do a job, and probably a bit unlucky not to feature in the games after that. But yeah, I think he's one likely to go. I do wonder if Daniel Butterworth might be one of them, possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
Well,
I was just going to say strikers is a position that we're top heavy for. I know Butterworth isn't really a striker, but you'd maybe listen in that. Yeah, I think they said it. Well, should Ablade still be here when he's back from injury, I think we'll have 7 forwards on the books.
Yeah, and obviously Plange, his loan is up in January. Potentially, he might end up going back to Palace. We think there's probably a half decent chance of that. He's got better in the last game, but I'm still not convinced we'll keep him on. Ablade's tied down to the season, and Simmo reportedly really likes him. And yeah, on top of that, you've got, like I said, I think he's spine, but there's going to be a spine of 3 players that'll go, which will be Whelan, Butterworth, and Harris, possibly. Not necessarily saying they'll go permanently. Maybe Butterworth will go out on loan, possibly, but I just have a feeling he'll want to get a few of them out, but then the rest I think he's keen to keep. But
Butterworth's on a 2-year deal as well, isn't he?
Yeah, that's hence why I think that might be more likely to be a loan unless he really wants to go permanently.
Yeah. Which could work in our favour because, we've always said there's a player in there with him.
Yeah.
And if he can go to League 2 and unlock that, then we all benefit.
Definitely. And Tom made a really interesting point, didn't he, about Simmo's sense of value, didn't he? I think he was really impressed with that. The fact that
Simmo's not money like it's his own, yeah.
Exactly. He's very frugal. He's not a case of I'm just going to throw the money out there. He's pleased he's got a bit more money to spend now, but he's not just going to go and spend it willy-nilly for the sake of it. So that's a really good thing to see as well. Facilities. So obviously was an interesting one. The search for land for a new training ground continues. They've visited about 2 or 3 sites, I think, now, possibly. But obviously, in terms of around Carlisle, there's not many places that don't flood in a flat. So it's limited options, but it sounds like people are really helping them in the community as well, which is a really good thing to hear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And one thing that impressed me really is that these questions about facilities, Simmo was answering a lot of them which leads me to think that any kind of training ground that we build or whatever, he's going to have a big part in this. He's worked at St George's Park,
and at big clubs as well.
Yeah, he's worked at big clubs, Premier League training facilities. So I think he's going to have a big say in how it looks. Yeah,
absolutely, which is what you want to see. And Simmo did give a bit more detail there, actually, didn't he? He talked about the fact that, people are wondering, why do we want a 20-25 acre site? Well, not a lot of that can be buildings. It's mostly pitches. Because the thing is, at the moment, we use Coldjuice School and French Fields at Penrith for the youth academy setups.
We have to pay for them as well quite a bit.
And it costs money. So, we want a place of our own. We want to have all the teams in one place. At the moment, initially, it would be the first team and the under-18s. But the idea is to get the academy up there eventually. And the women's team as well. And get the women's team and the women's academy team, because it sounds like the women are set up a development team, aren't they? Which is really good to see. So that really, really encouraging that he talks about it as one club. And we're very lucky to have someone like Simmo who sees that bigger picture, isn't it? And he sees the long term of the club, not just his own future there. So it's really encouraging. So that sounds good. The news about Brunton Park was quite interesting as well, wasn't it? They published the details of what's going to happen in the East Stand, and it looks like it's quite well progressed in terms of planning for it, and ideas of what they've got. Because to go from that in a few weeks to basically, they put out plans for 8 boxes to be set up in the East Stand, didn't they? That will be in above the the bits that have been empty for ages, where the camera gantry currently is now. I wonder if they'll stick with the camera gantry there, or they'll move it back over to the west side, possibly. It might be something to look at. Because the problem with the west side was it needed a lot of work to be done on the gantry to get it up to standards and get it fixed. So I wonder if now they've got the money there, well, we might as well actually do that and move it back over there. But also they're going to be moving the director's box over there now, so that's going to be moved over to the East Stand in next season by the sounds of things. So they're going to move the press box away from where it is to somewhere else in the East Stand. Not sure where, but they'll be moving that. Put the director's box up there and set a little director's room up there. So all change, isn't it? It's all very exciting, and the plans do look quite interesting for that. Because the thing is, at the moment, the hospitality side is fully booked, isn't it? Pretty much on the other side. Most games, there's no space, and this opens up so many more opportunities. And I'm only speaking as a fan here myself. I'd love occasionally to maybe do that as a little treat and go over there, but I'm always like wary of going in because there's so many other people already booked in for stuff. It's like I'll just leave it. Whereas this in the future, I might think, well, you know what, I might treat myself. You know, if it's a birthday coming up or something, you might want to book it. You know, have boxes available for people. You know, businesses might take them up. So it's good, isn't it? It's just exciting. It's just exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
And into the Warwick Road end, looks like those disabled facilities are going to be coming finally, and also improved facilities in terms of catering and toilets and stuff like that. So, it's just good.
Yeah,
it's weird.
Although he said, I think they want to keep the existing toilets almost as a museum to how things used to be, which I think is quite good.
It's almost like a little reminder. This is how far you've come. Be grateful. I totally understand
exactly.
that. I totally understand that. Yeah. Other few little bits that were covered in there. Simmo did say he would actually quite like to have a B team / under 21 team, but he was quite clear, wasn't he? He doesn't want to join a league with that. He just wants to be able to do bounce games as and when we need to.
Yeah, which I think is good because his reasons were, you know, if you got a time like now when you got loads of injuries, you don't want to be, you know, running your fringe players ragged and risking them getting injured as well, basically. But yeah, I think it'd be good because since we ditched having a proper reserve team in a league, I know the leagues weren't that competitive, but a lot of our kind of under 18 players, it's a hell of a leap from under 18s to first team. So if there could be something to bridge that gap a little bit, I think that'd be good.
Something that gives the likes of Max Kilsby and Kai Nugent a bit of time to develop, so they're not having to, you know, that 1 year and the pressure's all on to do it in that 1 year and show you're capable. You've got the chance to basically go and say, right, I can actually do this at under 21 level, and then you get your occasional chances in the trophies and things like that, don't you? So that's the hope. Other points, basically, there's only a couple more really. No plans to reinstate the matchday program. Sounds like the poster thing they're doing is doing quite well. And looking to recruit another first team coach in the near future. I thought that was, they didn't really say that, but Simmo sort of said, I need another first team coach, didn't they? And like, okay, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, well, we always used to have another one, didn't we? But
yeah,
I've kind of got a little bit mixed up in recent years because strength and conditioning coach is one thing, and you've got I feel like goalkeeper coaches in recent years have done a little bit more, haven't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it'd be good, and we've seen so many players who, to be honest, have gone downhill since joining us. So it'd be really good if we can have players really improving and
I do wonder if
going from strength to strength.
Just throwing an idea out there. I wonder if that's one of those sort of things you look at with Paul Huntington maybe for next season. Say, how will he be player coach? You know. Then there's not as much pressure on him to play, and there's a chance for him to develop as a coach. And I think he could be, obviously, if he wants to be a coach, I don't know, but I think he could really be a fantastic coach. I think he's got all the abilities to do it, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, Jeremy Devitt last year did quite a bit with the ladies' team, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true. You even getting someone like him involved, possibly. Just a couple of little bits of news, just tickets-wise. 3,500 sold for Wigan is the latest update. Fantastic effort, that, 500 left, and we could potentially get 800 more, but it looks like we're going to get very close to selling out that 4,000 at least anyway, because no tickets on the night. We've been told that, Mike, haven't we? So you've got to buy them in advance, so make sure you get them if you need one. And the extra away tickets are going on sale shortly, so they're ones to keep an eye out for. Right, let's get on to it then, Mike. Time to look back on the Northampton game. Carl United 2, Northampton Town 2. It was a little bit of that's just typical, isn't it? A much improved performance, playing so well, and then they go and do that, don't they? And concede a late goal. It's very typical Carl United, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, something I've long thought is that if we're in a relegation dogfight this season, we're probably not going to stay up safely with 7 games to go. It's not the Carlisle United way, is it? So we're going to have to make things a little bit difficult for ourselves somehow.
Yeah, it's very typical, isn't it? There's never an easy kind of way of doing things. We'll talk a little about a bit of the match experience later, because it's the first time you've been up since all the improvements have been done. In terms of when the team selection was announced, it was pretty much the team that Adam and I predicted, wasn't it? When you look back at it, we pretty much what we expected. Jack Robinson pushed into midfield, as he had done for the second half against Blackpool. Jack Armour back in at left back. Jordan Gibson back into the start 11, and him and Plange either side of Garner up front. And I think when you look at the players who are available, it made sense, didn't it? The only one you'd maybe suggest was Plange for Edmondson, but actually Plange had a fairly good game, as we'll talk about. And
I think it was probably Pat Planger's best game for the club, to be honest.
Yeah, I think probably up there with the Wigan game when he came on against them. He had a really decent second half in that game. But that's, you're probably right, probably near enough one of the best games he's had, actually, which is good to see after what happened last week at Blackpool, really. First half early on, I thought we were fairly comfortable in the game, weren't we? I think for the first half an hour or so. Had a couple of little chances. Plange had a couple of opportunities, one particularly put over the bar. Didn't feel like we're in trouble, did it?
No, and then we conceded. And it's happened so many times this season, where we've conceded in games. We weren't bombed under pressure, but we just conceded a sloppy goal. And, then the pressure's on us to get ourselves back in it.
So the goal obviously comes from McWilliams, very good play for Northampton, down the left, gets down the wing, cuts inside, hits a shot that goes sort of through McGeouch's legs, but McGeouch was quite close anyway. And then, do you know what? I didn't think there was as much of a flick, but look, Holy should still save it. He should still keep it out. But it does take a flick off John Mellish's foot right in front of Holy, and Holy has set himself to claim the ball as if it was going straight to him. He then has to react quickly, but he doesn't react very well, does he? That's the problem, really. So I think there's an element of I have got a bit of sympathy for Holy, having watched it, because I think the deflection is not that far away from him at all. But I still think he's a good enough keeper to push that behind the post, isn't he?
Yeah, I think if Holy was on the bench and it was Anderson that did that, you and me would be both saying that he should be dropped.
Yeah, I get that.
But
to be fair.
obviously, we don't have any realistic backup at the minute. No disrespect to Gabe Breeze, but it's getting to the point now with Holy. He's had a lot of these instances where someone say it's a mistake, someone say it isn't, but they keep on happening. And I think ultimately, if our goals are to be Championship or higher, we're probably going to need a new keeper.
Yeah, at the very least, we're going to need some strong competition for him, I think, aren't we, going forward? Well, let's get into the second half and talk about United's equaliser.
Well, I was going to say as well, with that goal, there was the Mellish deflection, but Emmanuel was massively out of position, which put McGeouch into that kind of right-back slot, and McGeouch wasn't going to win that battle for pace, was he? That's not his game. No. So I think there was a few sort of errors in the lead up to it, but ultimately it's the goalkeepers that always gets punished. No,
that's absolutely right. Let's get into the second half then. Let's talk about Jack Armour and his equaliser. I don't think there's any debate. He didn't mean it, did he?
No, I don't think so. But if you watch it again, if his cross had gone to where I think he wanted it to go, we had a man running in at the far post. It was
Edmondson, wasn't it? I think, actually, coming to get on the end of it.
I think it might have been, yeah. So, but if you're not in the final third and you're not trying to put balls in the box, you're not going to get luck like that. Yeah. So, you make your own luck, and it's not as if we didn't deserve the goal. So, yeah.
Whipped with real pace as well, wasn't it? Like, he really put his foot right through it the first time. And like you said, if it was a little bit further or nearer, it would have been a difficult one for the keeper, wouldn't it? I think either way. So, great stuff. And then, 15 minutes later or so, 9 minutes to go, looked like a former Cobbler had won it for United, didn't it? Jack Robinson's corner from the right, great ball into the 6-yard box, and bang, Ryan Edmondson's there to power the header past the Northampton keeper. He's on loan from Newcastle, that's why I said that. Northampton goalkeeper, and send the Warwick Road in absolutely balmy, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a cracking corner. I think Robinson had taken a few very good corners, to be honest. And they're the kind of corner that Edmondson didn't need to get a lot on it. He just kind of needed to knock it towards the goal. But they're the kind of corner that if the defender gets to it first, they're with that much pace, the defenders aren't going to get a clean clearance on it. It could ultimately go anywhere in the box. And I think as long as Robinson's in the team, I want him taking corners on that side. Yeah,
well, we will be getting onto that shortly, actually, because it's definitely one worth discussing the set pieces. But it wasn't to be, was it? Unfortunately, Northampton just started to get into it in the last few minutes, didn't they? And then deep into injury time. Brough gets the ball on the left, whips the ball across, and it goes through everyone, ends up at Bowie. And I've got to say, it's a really good finish, though. To actually take that on your left foot first time and hit it hard, low, through the legs of Armour and Holy. And it's not like Holy could do much about it. It was hit that well, and it's the equaliser. And it's a frustrating one to concede because Plange probably didn't track his man on the left. But it has to be said, it is a good finish, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a good finish, and it was a good move as well, to be fair. You know, the finish was quite a bit after Plange lost the ball. They were playing quite a few good one-touch passes, which, you know, near the end of the game, deep in injury time, you know, you'd be forgiven for maybe having a pop from outside the box, but they kept on passing it. They played it through and ultimately scored. And I think it's one of them, that finish, if that was a bang average League Two player, it'd have missed. You know, and that's what we're up against in League One. Yeah,
he was one of the better players in League Two last season when he was on loan there, wasn't he, Bowie? So not really a huge surprise that he would finish that well. Other chances that happened. Well, I missed this one because I nipped to the loo, but I heard the howls and protests from the fans while I was in there. Penalty shot on Joe Garner. What's your thoughts on it? I've seen it back and it's borderline for me, but I'm not sure. I'm not 100%.
I mean, I didn't think it was a stonewaller, really. It was one of them refs. It was clear from the start that he wasn't going to be giving Garner everything. And sometimes you're on a bit of an uphill battle with that. I think we've had more blatant penalty shouts that have been turned down, put it that way.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones that there maybe is a slight nudge in the back and the lad's taking a risk putting his arms on his back, but was there enough for Joe to throw himself down like that? Probably not, if we're being brutally honest. And got to mention this one, because someone had some money on Jack Robinson to score outside the box, and he took it outside the box and clipped the bar.
Yeah.
I've never seen you look so disappointed in a long time.
Yeah. I think, well, there was two separate bets. One of them on Robinson to score the last goal, one of them on him to score from outside the box. Only £2.50 on each, but I would have won about £300 if it had gone in. So So but it was one of them, because I was saying before the game, like, having never really seen him take shots or anything, he just strikes me as a player that has a good left foot on him for things like that.
And he did.
And he did, yeah.
Yeah, it was really, really good to see. Let's go through some of the talking points then, Mike. In fact, no, actually, before we do talk points, we'll have young Craig Robson sent us in his 6-second review for this game, so let's hear what he had to say.
How did we lose that? Walking away from a game where we should have probably got all 3 points, but somehow only managed to get one. I mean, I'm not disappointed, but, you know, them points might have been really crucial at the end of the season, but we'll have to see. Overall, it was a good performance for the first 25-30 minutes, but after we conceded a really poor goal to give away, and we conceded again because of a mistake. But up until then, we completely dominated. We just lost our heads a little bit. Then finally we got a bit of luck. Armour hit, which I think is a very mis-hit cross, and he somehow scores. And I've not been a great fan of Edmondson for a while, but it was a nice header to put us ahead. For the equaliser, I don't really think it's anyone's fault, as Simmo was asking us to sit back and defend, which I understand, but it invited a lot of pressure and they came up to us in groups, which I think was something Northampton were very good at. But I can see why we would have preferred to have defenders back rather than kept up the intensity. And whether we would have conceded, I'm not sure, but they didn't really do anything wrong. Northampton just had a really good move. Plange did really well after what he got last week. Just a shame he couldn't score. Hopefully he can keep that up, and hopefully we can. On to the next one. Up the Blues.
It's like listening to Neville and Carragher there, wasn't it? With his tactical analysis of late in the game. I don't think there's much wrong with what he said, to be fair. All pretty clear. Just talking generally about the performance there, Mike. It was night and day compared against the Blackpool game, wasn't it, in terms of the quality out there? Yeah,
but it had to be, didn't it? Because, God knows, if we'd have played like Blackpool, it would have been another defeat easily. But yeah, it's good to give the home fans a little something, and hopefully, if we get something from Cheltenham, we can go on a little bit of a run.
Yeah, I think we sort of said this, didn't we? Look, draw against Northampton, win against Cheltenham, you'd be happy with that, wouldn't you? Because Northampton are one of the form teams in the division. You've got to remember that, they're no mugs. Cheltenham are down there with us, so they're the ones you've got to beat and make sure you don't get beat by as well. So, that's fair enough. Let's talk about some individual performances then. Luke Plange, we sort of mentioned him already. Again, night and day performance, wasn't it, really? Against Blackpool, he just didn't turn up. He just wasn't really involved. He didn't look like he was up for it. I still think, the reception he got was quite harsh when he got subbed off. This time, got a really good reception. He did some really good stuff down the right. He held onto the ball really well. That's what you want to see a bit more of from him, isn't it?
Yeah, I think one of his first touches in the first 5 minutes down that right-hand side, he carried the ball well and had a shot, I think, that went behind for a corner. I can't quite remember. But yeah, it was good that he got that first touch right, and I think everyone got behind him from the off. I think he's had a tendency sometimes to play it very safe. He'll receive the ball from a fullback and he'll just play it straight back to the fullback, like he doesn't really want it. But it was good to see him actually running at players a bit on Saturday, and hopefully he keeps at it. And if the fans get back, because there's never been any doubt in his ability.
Yeah,
as a
ability.
Footballer.
You can see he's got ability.
But it's been the effort that has maybe rubbed people up the wrong way, myself included. And there wasn't a lot wrong with his work rate, to be honest.
I think his decision-making can be infuriating as well, actually, at times. And it still was slight in evidence in this game. There was a couple of times where he's cutting inside and looking to have a shot, and you think, just head to the byline and try and get a cross in. Because actually, he put a really good cross in for that one where Garner was shoved. That's what we want to see a little bit more of from you. But generally, decision-making was good. I don't think I would have had him man of the match, personally. I can understand why it's been given to him. That it makes sense. He was up there as one of the contenders, so to have him get it kind of makes sense in that sense. But yeah, someone else who was probably a contender to be man of the match, Jack Robinson. Really impressive playing midfield, as we mentioned before. And does he look like a potential option there? In not maybe necessarily long term, but an option who can slot into there when we need.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, in terms of his technical ability, I think he's a very good footballer. There were maybe a couple of times where he had a bit of a lack of awareness in there, which is understandable.
That kind of thing,
which is understandable because as a fullback, you've kind of got the whole game in front of you, whereas when you're in the middle, it's going on all around you, and it's probably the hardest position on the pitch. But I think, he had a very good game, and certainly Simmo's got a bit of a headache when it comes to maybe having to drop him at some point, because the way he's playing, I wouldn't drop him.
No, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, Moxon potentially is going to be fit for this weekend's game. So, what does he do there? Does he drop Jack for it? I think he probably is likely to drop Jack for him, but does he, or does he maybe look to bring out McGeoch or McCalmont for Moxon possibly?
Well, as well, I've noticed that Jack Armour's form has gone up a level since Robinson has been sort of in the first team, which is good. But yeah, I mean, me personally, looking ahead to Saturday, if Moxon's fit, I'd probably drop McCalmont, as harsh as that is, because he had a decent game. But yeah, it just gives us a little bit more balance in the middle, I think, if you've got the left footer and the right footer. Yeah.
Set pieces, really good, weren't they, as you mentioned before. Corners, everyone that Robinson put in was whipped in with pace and into good areas. Even Gibson's from the right were pretty good as well, to be fair. And I've never been that convinced by Jordan Gibson's corners, if I'm honest. So that was really good to see. So I think, to be honest, if Moxon's back in and Robinson is in there, just mix it up with the two of them, can't you? You can have a one on either side. So that's really good to see. Shout out to a couple more players. Ryan Edmondson, really good to see him actually stepping up, and you can see how much it means to him, don't you? When he's on the pitch. And I've heard some talk about maybe in training there's some issues there, and his attitude's maybe not quite right there. But on the pitch, you can't argue with it, can you? He puts the effort in. He plays with his heart on his sleeve, and it was a nice reward to see him get on the end of a set piece. Something we've been lacking this season.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Adam touched last week that he's a bit of a passion merchant. He'll get the crowd going sometimes. And we touched last week about how Plange's body language on the pitch hasn't always been the best, but Edmondson for doing things like that. And in terms of body language on the pitch, I thought Jordan Gibson was very, very good in that he always wanted the ball. He was always wanting to make things happen. He put in a lot of yards as well, but that yards isn't the only story. You need to sort of want to do things with it, and both him and Edmondson both seem to really want to do things with the ball.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's exactly what we want to see. I'm going to give you a little shout out to John Mellish as well. To be fair, I know we always give him a shout on this show, but I thought he was fantastic again, and I think that shows just how much he's stepped up this season. There was a great stat that I think not the top 20 copied me in on Twitter, which I'm going to have to go and find now. In terms of what he's done this season,
most tackles and interceptions, isn't it? I think he's like third.
Yes, in the football league. I'm just loading it up now. It is good radio. This isn't it? I know it's not radio, but there you go. List of the players to make 30 plus interceptions and win 40 plus tackles in League One this season. Noah Kenner, 40 and 57 from Shrewsbury Town. Ethan Eraheno for 32 and 37, and then John Mellish 31 and 46. So he's a little bit behind the others, but I have a feeling they're both midfielders possibly. So I know he's played a little bit this season midfield, but he's been a centre back most of it, and he's been fantastic, hasn't he? Really, in the way he's just slotted into whatever role he's given, and he's one of those ones. Even with the takeover happening, you can see him staying long term, can't you?
Definitely. He's shown a lot of maturity as well. We all love a bit of kamikaze John running up and down the pitch.
Yeah.
But as a centre-back in a two centre-back pairing, and he's shown loads of that, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see really the way he stepped up in terms of his performances. That pretty much sums it up for the Northampton game. A quick rundown of the League One results from that weekend. Barnsley won, Charlton won, Bolton won, Bristol Rovers 2. Bit of a surprise on that one, wasn't it? Really, to see Bristol Rovers get a win there. Good start to life. Matt Taylor's manager there, isn't it, at Bristol Rovers. Cambridge 2, Blackpool 1. Obviously, our game against the Cobblers was a draw. Our opponents this weekend, Cheltenham, they lost 2-1 at home against Leyton Orient. That was a hell of a loss for them when I tell you the details of that in a minute. Derby 1, Wycombe 1. A good point for Wycombe, that, because Wycombe really are in quite a downturn of form. Fleetwood 0, Peterborough 1, Lincoln 1, Reading 1, Oxford back in form 3-0 against Burton, Port Vale 3, Wigan 2. Not a great result for Wigan, that. Shrewsbury 0, Portsmouth 3. They're back on form, and then Stevenage 1, Exeter 1. That's it then, Mike. We'll take a short break now, and then we're back to look ahead to the games against Cheltenham Town and Fleetwood Town.
Hi, it's Ryan Edmondson from Carlisle United, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Had to pick Edmo this week, didn't we? Goal scorer at the weekend, so good to have him back on the half-time breaks. Time to look ahead now. As I mentioned before, we haven't got behind enemy lines lined up yet. Potentially could get some tomorrow, not 100% on that, but we'll have to see. Let's look ahead to the Cheltenham game first then, Mike. It's massive, this one, isn't it? See, the final team we've got to play this season, isn't it? I think we've played everyone else so far. I've got that right. No, we haven't played Barnsley yet. Sorry, I forgot about that. Barnsley game got moved in. Of course. So, second last team we've got left to play this season. Cheltenham Town, right down there with us, near the bottom. In fact, looking at the table right now, they are rock bottom. We're fourth bottom. They could potentially go ahead of us with a 2-0 win in this game. So we could potentially drop to the bottom of the league. So a lot at stake. I know it's early days still, and there's still time to, pull things around, but 3 points has got to be a must in this almost.
Yeah, surely. We said all along that we don't want to be cut adrift come January. And, if we win this and get something from Fleetwood, we might not even be in the relegation zone. So that'd be absolutely incredible. Yeah,
to be able to pull ourselves out going into Christmas out the bottom three. Obviously, we need Exeter to lose their game at the weekend. But I'm not exactly sure who they're playing. Actually, I'll just quickly load that up while we're talking here. I believe Exeter are playing on Friday. They're playing Cambridge United, so that's a big game for them as well, actually, to be fair. Cheltenham Town, we all predicted they were going to struggle this season, so them being bottom's not that much of a surprise, is it?
Not really. Yeah, it's mad. Their thing, well, certainly at the start of the season, was they just couldn't score goals, could they? I think they went on some insane run where they hadn't scored a goal.
11 league games without scoring, and they scored in the 12th game against Derby County, funnily enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, they really, really struggled, and I think the problem there is they lost a real talisman in Alfie May, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, last January they signed Aidan Keener from Sligo, I think it was, and he was the League of Ireland top scorer. And apparently he only cost about 50 grand, but he basically kept them up last season. I think he scored about 7 goals in 18 games, so pretty decent return. But then this season he just hasn't scored a single goal.
Yeah,
and you know he's going to score against us after saying that. But yeah, I mean, they were always going to, miss Alfie May, but how much they've missed him has been incredible.
They're basically relying on Will Goodwin for goals this season, aren't they? I'm just looking at it there. He signed from Stoke City in the summer, and his goals are the only reason they're not probably totally adrift at the bottom so far.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Looking through their summer signings, Mike, the only one who really stands out for me is, I think, or maybe two of them actually, to be fair, it would be Curtis Davis, the centre-back. I know he's getting on a bit, but that's a good bit of experience at the back. And Tom Pett was a late arrival. I think he arrived after the window closed, didn't he, because he was unattached. Decent player for Port Vale down the years, but beyond that, a lot of players on loan. 7 players on loan, so they must have a couple that may be injured and can't play. But really, really struggling to get any quality into the club this summer, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And to be fair to them, I think they probably have the lowest budget in the league, I would guess.
Wouldn't be far off, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
They're probably a little bit less than us, if we're being brutally honest, and they brought the money in from May, which obviously they have to reinvest, but not in the way that the fans would probably hope. When you look through the squad, Mike, who stands out for you as a dangerman in there?
Well, obviously I touched on Keener before, but this season he's been struggling. Obviously you touched on Pett then. Curtis Davis, was he at Preston with Simmo?
I don't think so. I'm going to very quickly look up now and see where he was. He was at Hull City many years ago.
Okay.
I have a feeling, was he called up to an England squad at some point? I know he played for Sierra Leone. He played for England under 21s, that was it. I don't think he ever got a full call, possibly. I'm just looking through his Wikipedia page while we're talking here. But yeah, he's... in fact, no, he was named in Fabio Capello's first provisional England squad in January 2008.
Ah.
He was named in the squad to face Germany in November that year, but did not take the field. So I think he basically had a chance to play for FAI, but apparently she doesn't have any Irish heritage. It turned out in the end the details weren't quite right. But his dad was from Sierra Leone, so he's played for Sierra Leone. That's the one.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the whole, generally struggling to find any names that really jump out at me, really.
Yeah, there is quite a lack of quality in there. You can probably see why they're struggling. I know Will Ferry's someone they really rate there as a young midfielder who they're hoping to get a bit of money for in the future. But beyond that, you look at it and you think to yourself, this is a really good opportunity, surely, to have a go at them and get a result.
Yeah, definitely. I've heard people say it'd be better to have this game after January, but I think they're there for the taking now, to be honest. I don't think we need our new signings. I think we should be able to beat them without our new signings.
Yeah, Darryl Clark, the manager now, he's replaced Wade Elliott, who was sacked in September. Done an okay job to get them a few points on the board at the very least and get them looking fairly solid. I'd imagine he's going to be looking to bring players in January, surely, isn't he?
Yeah. How much money he'll have to spend, I'm not sure. But it's certainly looking very bleak for them.
Yeah. He's had quite a lot of tragedy in his life, Darryl Clarkson. I think his mother was killed in a car crash when he was quite young, and his dad was an alcoholic, so he was brought up by his grandparents. But then also, sadly, everyone remember a couple of years ago, his daughter died, didn't she? So, he's had to go through a hell of a lot in recent seasons or recent years in life. And yeah, he's one of those managers. Isn't he? He's very good at League Two level, hit and miss at League One level. But I think as as far as appointments Cheltenham could have made, he's probably about as good as they could have found, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when he came in, I think it was kind of damage limitation, really. I think when he came in, it looked like they were going down and maybe just wanted to go down with a bit of a fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably what they were looking at. So yeah, in terms of other things to this game, let's look at some of the stats stuff. Head to head, 31st meeting between the two sides. United have won 10, 9 have been a draw, and the Robins have won 11. So quite balanced in terms of their results. Not so much in recent games. Last 4 meetings of the two teams, United haven't won a single one of them. They've been 1 draw and 3 defeats. But prior to that, we only lost twice in 15 meetings against them. And there was actually 4 wins in a row before those last 4 games. So our record in recent years is quite good against Cheltenham if you take those last 4 games out. So, yeah, these things usually mean nothing, don't they? But it's always interesting to hear them. Referee for this one, Declan Bourne from Nottinghamshire. It is 4th season as an EFL referee, having started in 2020. Taken charge of 12 games so far this season, handing out 58 yellows and 3 red cards. Last season, he handed out 103 yellows and 9 red cards in 27 games. And the last United game he took charge of was the 0-0 draw at Walsall last season, where former Blue Hayden White was sent off for a pretty horrendous tackle, if I remember rightly. Not like he's got a reputation for that, is it really, White? But
no, yeah. I think he was from what I recall, he was quite poor that day.
Yeah, he wasn't a great referee that day, to be fair. Yeah. Armour and Patrick were booked for us, and yeah, it was not a memorable game of football. Let's just put it that way. In terms of other stuff, obviously we've mentioned that. In terms of form, they are 15th in the last 6 games form table, with a record of 1 drawn, 1 lost, drawn, lost. So they haven't won in the last 3. Results wise, if you go back, I mean they've been beaten 5-1 by AFC Wimbledon in the FA Cup, which is not a great result, but. Last time out against Leyton Orient, this must have been a real sickener for them, even more of a sickener than ours was, because they were 1-0 up going into the 89th minute, conceded a goal, and then deep into injury time, one of the Orient lads takes a shot from the edge of the box, and it's one of those ones that takes a huge spinning deflection, and the keeper's gone completely the wrong way, and he just has to watch as it bobbles into the far corner. And you imagine, and they were down to 10 men from the 18th minute of this game for 2 early bookings. So to be 1-0 up going that late in, they must have been thinking this is an incredible result, and then to go and lose 2-1. You hope that's dented their confidence a little bit more than ours will have, don't you?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, we've been in that position quite a few times in recent years, and it is soul-destroying. And I'd imagine a lot of the Cheltenham fans wouldn't fancy the long trip up to Carlisle after something like that.
Oh, just before Christmas as well. That's probably the worst. I mean, with the greatest respect to Cheltenham, I can't imagine they're going to bring much more than 150, 200 for this one. Potentially.
I'd be impressed if they brought that many, to be honest.
And I don't really blame them, because it's an absolutely horrible journey to do in like 2 days before Christmas, really. It's insane, really, that they put a fixture like that then, But there you go. Well, you consider our away games have all been the local ones we really want to do in this, in the summer months or the better months, and then they go and give Cheltenham Carlisle away that close to Christmas. It's just ridiculous, isn't it?
I feel like Cheltenham are one of them teams though, that while they're down south, if they were in the league below the National League, they'd wind up in National League North.
Yeah, they probably would, with the ridiculous way it's set up now, aren't they? I think, well, Gloucester are in there, aren't they? So that one makes Gloucester's pretty much
exactly
across the motorway, isn't it, from it? So
yeah.
Yeah. Right. Let's look ahead to this game in terms of United, because we'll do this now, because obviously in terms of Fleetwood, the Cheltenham game will have been out of the way by then, so we can't really talk about United for that. So injury wise, it's looking a lot better, isn't it? Really, by the looks of things, we're going to have Charters, Ellis, and Huntington available for this match, Mike, and it's just going to be nice that, in a weird way, to be able to leave players out of the squad for the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, the youth lad that we've had on the bench the past few games, Fitzpatrick, you'd imagine he'd sit out, but it's hard to think who else would sit out.
Well, you look at it, I think in terms of the starting 11 and formation, I think I'd be amazed if he didn't more or less stick with the same, with the possibility of maybe Moxon coming in for someone, maybe for McCalvin. At a push, maybe you'd put Edmondson in for Garner, because Garner wasn't quite as effective against Fleetwood, but I reckon against Northampton. But I think he'll stick with Garner for this one, probably.
Yeah, I think Garner's got enough credit in the bank to, not let one poor performance take him out the team.
So let's say we think maybe Moxon in for McCalmont, possibly, for this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. McCalmont drops to the bench and takes that place that Fitzpatrick had there. And then you've probably got quite a few defenders on that bench anyway. So it's whether you... I don't think Ellis will come to the bench. I think he'll probably still sit out. Charters, though, I wonder if he might come in for someone. Maybe even in for... Possibly in for Butterworth, maybe?
Maybe.
Because he's right down the pecking order, isn't he, really? He's not really getting...
Yeah, and Charters last season played a few games as like a left forward in a three-man attack, didn't he? When we played that sort of 3-4-3. So if we're maybe playing a 4-3-3, he could maybe play that role as well.
Yeah, I think Robinson could potentially play that role as well, because he's done it in one game, didn't he, I think? So there's a possible option there. So that's what we'd probably go with. Shall we do predictions? Obviously, in terms of the prediction league, none of us got any points last week. I thought one of us picked Edmonton to score, but we didn't, apparently. So
we all three of us, you, me and Dan, we all picked 2-1. So we all had it snatched from our jaws at the last moment.
Absolutely sickening. I actually did predict Robinson to score, didn't I? So I should have got on board with your bet, shouldn't I, really? But what are you going to go for this one then, Mike?
I'm going to go for a 2-0 win. I'm going to say we're going to get a clean sheet, and I'm going to say Jack Robinson and Ryan Edmondson will score.
I am going to go with 3-0 win. I'm going to, sod it. Let's have a pre-Christmas treat. 3-0 win with goals from Owen Moxon back in the team, Jordan Gibson, and Ryan Edmondson to get another. Why not, off the bench? He'll get another goal. Right, so let's have Dan's predictions for this one.
Well, Saturday, we deserved the 3 points from me. A little bit of a cruel kick at the end, but the upturn in attitude bodes well. Obviously, Armstrong, first player in. Obviously, he's not available, but upward curve and all that. I'm going to go for a 3-0 win. Edmondson to score again. I think he might get 1 or 2 on a little roll now. Gibson and John Mellish.
One away from predicting exactly the same as me there, wasn't he? When he started saying that, I was like, oh, don't say Moxon as well. So there you go. So me and Dan are very much like a hive mind at times, aren't we, with these sort of things? So there you go. Right, we'll take a little short break and then we'll be back to look ahead to the Fleetwood game.
Hi, it's Tom Piatak II, and you're listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Yeah, there's a bit of a Tom to get us into the third part of this week's show. Fleetwood Town, Mike. Little Boxing Day trip to the Lancashire coast. Hopefully a bit better than the last time we visited that part of the world.
Yeah. When even was the last time we visited that part of the world?
Last week. Blackpool. We took
I'm with you now. I thought you meant Fleetwood itself. I was like, what? Because we've never played them in the league. But yeah, it's. But if you think Blackpool is a dump, just wait till you visit Fleetwood.
Come on, we have Fleetwood fans listen to this, Mike. Let's be fair here. To be fair, I've been a couple of times. It's a suburb of Blackpool, isn't it? At the end of the day, so I'm sure they'll hate us saying that, but it practically is, isn't it? It's on the tram route, so that's the way it should be looked at. Yeah, Fleetwood Town, what are we expecting from this? Because, I mean, going back to the opening day of the season, we all came out of that game saying, wow, this is a real step up in quality from last season. Fleetwood look a decent mid-table side, don't they? We couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah, it's been weird, hasn't it? They've had a lot of nonsense going on off the pitch. And I think that's filtered through to the pitch, really, because, I mean, you look through the team and there's quality in there.
Well, I mean, look at the attack, Mike. You'd have 2 or 3 of those players from there, wouldn't you? Probably. Well, we would have done at the start of the season. I mean, Jack Marriott's an obvious one. He scores goals for funds. Jaden Stockley's always been a really good player at this level. And even Kabongo Schminger on loan from Peterborough United. He was a proper hot shot at non-league level, wasn't he, at Chesterfield and Portland Wood? But yeah. So
yeah, exactly, and even you look at the midfield, Danny Mayer, he's a good player, and then defence.
We like the look of Josh Earl, didn't we? When we were that opening game of the season, we were really impressed with him on the left side of their defence, and even Sean Rooney's a player. Do you know what? If we actually are looking to sign players from this level. And if they're willing to sell, I'd go in for Sean Rooney. I think he's a really good player. He plays right right back, right wing back, doesn't he? But he can play further forward, and I think he'd be a really good addition as well. There's a lot of quality in that squad, and I think we were talking to a friend before the game last week, weren't we? We said Brendan Woodoo as well in midfield. He scored the goal against us, and he's always looked a really good player. Yeah. And somehow it just isn't working for them this season. And I think you're right. I think that off the field stuff is filtering down a bit, and an example of that is Jack Marriott was supposed to be, potentially leaving to Oxford, wasn't he? I think in August they had a couple of bids knocked back for him, and he scored a few goals. But do you wonder maybe if he's a little bit unsettled by the fact that they didn't sell him in the end?
Yeah, probably. I think as well he's a southern lad, isn't he, Marriott?
Yeah, he's from Luton. Ipswich. Sorry, we had him on loan from Ipswich when he.
Yeah. So I think sometimes if there's a move that's closer to home, more money. Better team, it ticks all the right boxes and it gets taken away from you. Like with Armstrong, it's disappointing. But he still scored a few this season, I think, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's chipped him with a few. I'm just trying to load it up now. But yeah, I think he scored, let me have a little look. I think 3 or 4 maybe this season. 5 goals in 18 games. So that's pretty good going, for a team that's struggling. He basically is their goal threat, because Stockley, I think he's got 1 goal in about 18 games this season. He's really struggling for goals now. That early poor season starts. They obviously, I think, that didn't win one of their opening 6, I think, and then they got rid of Scott Brown, who'd done okay in his first season, and brought in Lee Johnson, someone who has managed a lot of clubs at this level, hasn't he? Really has become a bit of a journeyman manager. Obviously, Gary Johnson's son, isn't he? He is, yeah. How old is he, do you reckon?
I would say 42.
You bang on, he's 42 years old. which is mad, because he's been managing for about 12, 13 years, hasn't he?
I know he started young though, yeah.
Was it Oldham, his first job? I think he managed that. I think he started quite young there. And
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's someone who's certainly... He's had a bit of success in his time as manager, though, hasn't he? I think it's fair to say, I'm just looking in terms of his playing days. He managed Oldham in 2013, so it's 10 years he's been managing, basically. He did a couple of years there, then he had his time at Barnsley, Bristol City, obviously, where his dad had been in. Decent enough record at Bristol City. Sunderland, his record was very good, but he just couldn't quite get them promoted, could he? So, it's an interesting appointment for... I think it's an interesting one for him as well. I'm surprised he took that. I know, look, the problem with the manager, if you're out of a job for a long time, people forget about you very quickly, don't they? I do wonder if he could have been a bit more patient with his choice of job, though, because I don't feel like Fleetwood is, with what's going on off the pitch, it's not the greatest club to go to at the moment, is it?
No, it's not. And sometimes with a manager like him, if he winds up getting a relegation on his CV, it can knock his career back a few years. But yeah, I think it's not going to be an easy game. Far from it. No. We said they have quality players. Certainly, compared to Cheltenham, looking through that squad list, it's
absolutely different, isn't it? When you look at Fleetwood's squad, looks so much better than Cheltenham's. I know there's only 1 point between them, which is mad, really. But I do look at it and think to myself, this is going to be a bit more of a challenge than we probably face in the game just before Christmas. Anyone else stand out in their squad in terms of good players?
I mean, you look through it and there's a lot of quality throughout, really. Certainly when compared to looking at Cheltenham's, it's chalk and cheese. It's Thingy, Junior Quittimer, I think his name is.
Yeah, I think he's their top scorer this season, isn't he? He scored a few goals and he looked quite good. Did he play in that opening game? Or am I thinking of Phoenix Patterson or someone else, maybe? There's someone with an unusual name playing that first game. He was quite impressive, I seem to remember. But
yeah, but I reckon because he was at Waterford. I knew I'd recognise his name from somewhere. 15 goals in 43 games from midfield over there. So that's pretty damn impressive.
He got maybe 5 or 6 this season as well, I think, possibly.
Yeah. 5 goals in 18 this season. So, I think he's definitely one to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Overall form-wise, they're currently 20th in the last 6 games form table, with a record of drawn 1 and then 4 losses in a row. But it's when you look at the results, those 4 losses in a row, Mike, they've not scored a single goal in those games either. So they're really struggling up front for goals now. And you do wonder if Marriott's maybe got his eye already on January and think to myself, I'm going to get a move anyway, so I don't know why. There's no point in me putting the extra effort in almost.
Yeah, definitely.
Free.
Yeah, obviously, if Marriott was to go, you really wonder where the goals would be coming from forwards-wise, because the others just haven't really been doing it for them.
I mean, they signed Kabongo Chaminga from Peterborough United. He was the big hot talent in the National League, wasn't he, at Boreham Wood and Chesterfield?
Chesterfield, yeah.
Yeah, big things were expected of him. Very typical Peterborough United signing, wasn't he? Non-league star.
Definitely.
Didn't really find his feet at Peterborough so much. I'm looking at his record at Fleetwood. He's only got 1 goal and 0 appearances. Is he injured? I'm presuming he's injured. I'm talking about
1 goal and 0 appearances. That's quite impressive.
Got to give that. Thank you very much, Michael. 0 goals in 1 appearance.
Yeah.
He must have an injury, surely. I'm guessing, because he doesn't look like he's featured at all. And that's a really disappointing signing for them as well. I imagine they've probably outlaid a bit of money on bringing him in. In fact, sorry, that's a lie. 1 start, 11 sub appearances, 0 goals. So, yeah, it's not great for him, really. He scored a couple of goals for them in the trophy against Wigan, but that's it. No other goals in league games, and he's just getting, I think, by looks of things, like appearances off the bench every now and then now at the moment for them. So,
yeah,
struggling to make the impact. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
A few stats from this one, obviously. Head to head, it's only the 8th meeting between the two sides, but the first time we'll have met in a league fixture at Highbury Stadium. 2 wins for United, 2 draws, and 3 wins for the Cod Army. So a win here would balance it out quite nicely. Head to head, referee for this one, Adam Herczig from County Durham. It's his 2nd season as an EFL referee. He's taken charge of 17 games so far this season, handing out 53 yellows and 1 red card. Last season, he handed out 83 yellows and 2 red cards in 26 games. The last United game he took charge of was the 2-0 defeat to Exeter City this season. Now, why does that one stick in the mind, Michael? He should have sent off Dimitri Mitchell for 2 blatant bookings.
Of course, yeah.
In quick succession, and he didn't. And Mitchell then went on, obviously, to go and score the 2nd goal in that game. So, one to keep an eye out for that one. Maybe he can return as a favour and actually give someone a booking who didn't deserve it in this game, maybe, if we're lucky. Anything else to cover on this one? I think that's pretty much it, isn't it, really, in terms of all that sort of stuff. Last time out, they lost 1-0 to Peterborough United. Should say that Derek Asamoah's son, Melis Asamoah, came off the bench in that one. Obviously, Chaminga couldn't play in that one because obviously he's on loan from Peterborough United. But yeah, a 1-0 win for Peterborough. It's not looking great for Fleetwood at the moment. Predictions for this one then. What are we going for?
I'm going for a 2-1 win. I think Joe Garner will get a goal against his former club. And I'll say Owen Moxon as well.
I'm going to go 2-0. I'm also going to predict Garner to score for that reason. It's his former club. There's a temptation to go Edmonton 3 games in a row. Just, him proving a point with the new players coming in. But now I'm going to go for Big John. And I think Big John will be on the wind-up for that game for some reason as well. I don't know why, but I think he will. So, yeah, let's go for Garner and Big John in a 2-0 win. Here's Dan's predictions for this game.
Again, another battle at the bottom. but one we're more than capable of winning. Fleetwood, and they're not much of a team. I think it's there for the taking if we go with positive attitude, hopefully following a win against Cheltenham. So I'll go for a 2-1 win, and I'm going to go for Joe Garner and let's have another Jack Armour goal.
He seems to like picking similar results and scorers to us, doesn't he? I don't know what it is. That Dan's almost telepathic. He can work out. It's just weird. It's very weird indeed. Right, let's do the X-Files section to round things up then, Mike. A few bits to cover this weekend, though. Quite a bit in there. Got to give some credit to John Coleman from the News and Star for some of these, because I did spot them in his article he does about X-Files, so this is just giving a little roundup of those. Let's start with the trophy winner, James Tavernier. He scored the only goal of the game as Rangers beat Aberdeen 1-0 in the Scottish League Cup final.
It wasn't a penalty.
I know, amazing, wasn't it? And I love the fact that the Scottish League Cup final takes place before Christmas. Get it out of the way, get it sorted, get a trophy done. Bang. Lovely stuff. Charlie Wyke scored a consolation goal for Wigan Athletic in their 3-2 defeat at Port Vale. Could that be his last goal for them before he comes to Brunton Park? The rumours are gathering, aren't they? There's rumours that he's a January target. You never know.
Apparently not.
Yeah, it seems unlikely, but it has been rumoured. Paddy Madden scored a hat-trick. He netted 3 times for Stockport County, including a penalty in their emphatic 8-0 win over Sutton United, a result that cost the Sutton United manager his job. Wonder how that move's going, Amari, eh? Bloody hell. 8-0 defeat. Yeah. There was a brilliant tweet from our friends at the Gandemonium blog, the Sutton United blog, who basically pointed out the fact that they had the players had their Christmas night out in Manchester after the game, and basically saying, I hope they have a really shit night out. And then I think that one of the replies was that I hope the snooker tables, all the pool tables, broken in the training ground.
Yeah,
not happy to say the least. Andy Cook, he scored the second goal in Bradford City's 2-0 win at Gillingham. Not looking a great investment for them, is it? A 3-year deal to 31-year-old Andy Cook. He's not 32-year-old Andy Cook. He's got 4 or 5 goals this season. He's not really found the same form, has he? James Chester, he scored for Barrow in their 3-0 win at Swindon Town. Good result for Barrow, that to be fair. You know, they're flying second place in the League Two table, playing Wrexham, I think, over Christmas as well. I think that they've still got tickets available for that game at Wrexham. If I was a Barrow fan, I'd be desperately wanting to go to that one. Massive game. Mark Beck scored for Solihull Moors in their 3-2 home defeat to Oldham Athletic. George Waring scored for Curzon Ashton in their 2-0 home win over Brackley Town. David Simonton always seems to score for Workington, doesn't he? He scored in their 2-2 draw with Ashton United. They drew 0-0 with Macclesfield the other night, Workington. 6 draws in a row they've had now in the league. Like, it's a good unbeaten record, but you kind of be looking thinking, maybe a couple of wins there would be nice, but there you go. Nick Ballardo, I think he scored his first goal for Morpeth Town in their 2-2 draw with Basford United. Charlie Barnes, his first goal for Lancaster City as well in their 4-2 win at Stafford Rangers. Connor Thompson, we're dropping down the North East Leagues here now. He scored for Ashington in their 4-2 home defeat to Newton Aycliffe. Here's a belter. We mentioned his son just before, Mike. Derek Asamoah, he scored twice for Brightlingsea Regents in their 4-1 win over Bowers and Pitsea. That's proper South East London sort of non-league names there, aren't they?
Yeah, he's got to be about 45 now. Asamoah.
42, 43, I think he is.
42,
something like that. Okay. Yes, he's not as old as you think, but still, to be scoring at that age, though, at that level, still is quite impressive, isn't it, really? So there you go.
Yeah, he's probably still faster than me.
Yeah, and finally, Gavin Riley scored for Queen and South in their 3-1 win over Edinburgh FC. I've left the midweek stuff in from last week. That's not relevant, Mike, so don't worry, I'm not missing it on purpose. And finally, just a couple more bits. Stephen Schumacher, he has left his role as Plymouth Argyle manager to take on the same role at Stoke City. I'm not sure how much of a step up this is, you know, because a lot of managers are really struggling to get Stoke out of the Championship and turn that club around. And Plymouth seems to be a club really on the up. I know they're not flying high in the Championship this season, but I just feel like I'm not convinced that's a great move for him. What do you think?
I think Stoke will have a lot better resources.
Yeah, and I suppose it's near to home, isn't he? Because he's from the Northwest.
I was going to say, much nearer to home. So, yeah, I can see why he did it. The Plymouth fans aren't happy with him. But obviously fans never are when a manager leaves a successful team, are they? So
yeah, and I suppose Ryan Lowe backed up his decision, didn't he? And Preston are flying high. in the Championship as well, so it just happens, and I'm sure they'll attract some. Leighton Baines was the name I saw linked with the job. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Out of nowhere. And finally, this is one you pointed out to me, Mike, that I'd left out the running order. Luke Joyce has announced he's going to retire from football at the start of January. After 700, 800 odd games as a player. Fantastic career, really, really impressive. Yeah. He's playing his final game for Radcliffe, funny enough, against his former teammate, Danny Granger. He's going to be playing against Workington, isn't he, for them over Christmas. So all the best to Luke. I mean, got some brilliant memories. I mean, that goal he scored against Crawley stands out, doesn't it, really, as the goal of the season he scored. And
yeah.
Great.
And he's got a role lined up at Brentford, apparently.
He is, going to work. Lee Dykes is there.
Lee Dykes, yeah.
Lee Dykes and Stephen Presley's there still, isn't he? I think he's got some sort of role there too. So really, really good stuff. All the best, Luke, to the rest of your career. We'll have to try and get him on the pod at some point and talk about his career, won't we, really? Because he's you're going to have some tales to tell, I'm sure. Well, that's it then, Mike. That's his episode wrapped up. I tell you what, guys, we're letting you in behind the curtain a little bit here, but this has been a nightmare to record this one because we've had some real connection problems. I think we're looking at potentially changing our studio provider in the new year to something that might work a little bit better, but we've soldiered on to make sure you've got something to listen to before Christmas. And like I said, I'll let you know if we're going to get to behind enemy lines, but it's looking unlikely at the moment. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. I think that's pretty much it. Over Christmas, we'll do a review of the two games, and we'll do a preview of the game against Wigan and the New Year's Day game against Port Vale. We'll do them together as well, so we'll get that sorted next week. But all that's really left to say, Mike, is thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues. Hello everyone, you're listening to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Car United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney. And I'm Mike Booth.
Christmas comes early for United fans as the Piataks deliver a present for Simmo, a club record signing. We discussed it. Oh, no. That did not go well, did it? That was far more complicated than I intended. There's the outro sorted anyway. Right, let's have another go, shall we?